Welcome to another live Saturday show. Happy Saturday, and welcome to Canada USA Showcase Showdown. Let's get rolling. 8 o'clock puck drop tonight, live from the Bell Center. As we move along on this Four Nations tournament, as we start to say good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Steph Howard. Happy Saturday. Let's get going with one of the more anticipated games to come our way in a really long time. What are we talking? Like since the Montreal Canadiens were your defending Western Conference champs, going all the way to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup final, like legitimately. And it's funny that I'm this jacked, this enthused for Canada USA at 8 o'clock tonight in the aftermath of Canada and Sweden opening up the tournament on Wednesday this week, and seeing how the tournament unfolded, seeing how Canada performed. Obviously, Mario Lemieux being brought out there to a standing ovation. We had Michel Lacroix on the show this week with Connor McKenna and yours truly. Michel Lacroix, for the uninitiated, is the voice of the Montreal Canadiens. He is the voice of the Bell Center. He was the guy that you're watching during the goal announcements every single Montreal Canadiens home game. And Michel is obviously a world-class announcer. He does Olympics and has done Olympics for a really long time. He was the host for the President's Cup when guys were introduced on the first tee. That was Michel Lacroix's voice. So it was Michel that introduced all from Teemu Selanne through Mike Richter, through ultimately Mario Lemieux. And we saw the ovation, we saw the crowd, we saw the enthusiasm. And right off the jump, like, I can't believe my level of enthusiasm for this tournament. And you guys feel the same way? Like, I was a guest on a radio show 2 weeks before the Four Nations began. And the host on the radio station was asking me about what I thought about this game, what I thought about the tournament, and where was my level of enthusiasm. And I'll be honest, I was not positive. I was not looking forward to this. I thought it was a manufactured, better version of an all-star game between four competing countries. They kept marketing it like it wasn't an all-star game. There was going to be physicality. They marketed it as best on best hockey. I'm like, how can it be best on best hockey? I mean, Switzerland's not even there, and Switzerland gives Canada such a hard time all the time, right? So I felt as though that it was going to be kind of force-fed, manufactured enthusiasm. And then Wednesday happened, and Canada played Sweden, and Mario Lemieux came out, and the first goal was scored with Sidney Crosby behind the back to Nathan McKinnon, and the party was on. And what a game it turned out to be, as Canada prevailed 4-3 in overtime. And then we can talk about what's happening around the world, in particular in our corner of the world between the United States and Canada, because one of the hot button issues that's come out of this short little window of a Four Nations Faceoff Tournament is the fact that I try to stay out of politics as often as I possibly can when I talk to you, whether it's here on YouTube or whether it's on TSN 690, because it's too divisive. There's no winner. There's no convincing. There's no seeing the other side of the argument. So in my opinion, I'm like, what's the point? If we can't find common ground, if two sides can't agree that the sky is blue and the sky is clearly blue, then I think we're just spinning our wheels, wasting each other's respective time. But in the here and now, politics has more or less been force-fed down our throats because of the president of the United States of America continues to poke Canada for reasons that maybe we have our guesses, but for reasons that just won't go away, whether it's disrespecting the Prime Minister of Canada, calling him the governor, whether it's trying to absorb our sovereign nation in Canada to become the 51st state, talking about what exactly? And fans have shown their displeasure. So right off the hop, how big of an issue is this for you? How big of an issue is this for you when it comes to the booing of the national anthem? Because it's been happening for a while. It's been happening at the Bell Center. It's been happening in Vancouver. It's been happening in Toronto. Whether it's the NHL, Four Nations, or the NBA, it's happening. And the Four Nations is going to wrap up next week in Boston. And you can bet what's probably going to happen if Canada gets to the final on Thursday. You can bet what's going to happen. And when Canada plays Finland, there's a chance, maybe the Canadian national anthem gets booed. So prepare for that. So before I get to your opinions on all of these things and more, I'm just going to weigh in with my own personal take on this. I have zero issue with fans booing the national anthem. I really do. I really don't have a problem with this. I guess what I do have a problem with is the lack of context that's been provided when people ask Matthew Tkachuk about what did you think about fans booing the anthem before the USA and Finland got going at the Bell Center? And what did he say? I didn't like it, and I'll leave it at that. And he just leaves it. But it's you know it. If you follow along with North American events, forget world events, North American events, since more or less January 6th, it's obviously more than that, isn't it? And let's put our cards on the table. Let's put our cards on the table. Fans showing their displeasure for what the president is talking about continually about Canada and Trudeau, etc. Booing the anthem is one of the tamest, most docile forms of protest imaginable. Full stop. Because what's the other world look like if fans wanted to get more passionate about what's happening? Where do we draw the line? Would you prefer that flags are being burned outside the Bell Center, or what? Or, figures of President Trump are being hung by lampposts? Booing the anthem in a form of protest is honestly one of the more docile, tame ways of protesting and voicing your displeasure imaginable. So the context to me is very important. It's very important. It's more than just booing the anthem. What do you think? It's booing the anthem. Why? Why? The context to me is very, very important. And I've maintained this position for a long, long time. As long as nobody's getting hurt, as long as you're not committing a crime, it is your democratic right to show your emotion in good or a bad way at a sporting event. You as the ticket holder, again, as long as you're not hurting anybody and you're not breaking the law, if you don't like who you're going to see tonight on the ice, you're allowed to boo. It is your democratic right. And I'm not in the business of telling people how to behave. Like, I see it in my comment section all the time. People are very comfortable telling other people what to do or what to say. Like I said, go check out any of my videos. Check out the comments. It's wild. People are so comfortable. Don't say that. Don't do that. Do this. Don't do that. What? Where am I? And who are you? Because I'm nobody. And who are you to tell this nobody what's going on? So I just wanted to get that off my chest. It's been something that's been on my mind. I'm sure it's been on your mind too. And I think if we're watching this together, if I think most of my viewers here this morning are with me, are in the province of Quebec, are in the beautiful free land that is Canada, and it's our country. And stay the F out. Full stop. You don't like it? You don't got to come here, and vice versa. And stop poking the bear. So let's go. Let's go. It's Canada USA tonight at 8 o'clock. Good morning, Steph Howard. Good morning, Charles. What's up, Charlottetown Spud? Our country, our game. Go Canada, go. Can't wait. What's up, Wild Bill? Good morning, Bill. I was going to buy a single ticket before the Sweden game at $326 in the Blues. But I waited until after the game, and the same ticket jumped to $732, way out of my price range. Bill, bro, you are not alone. You are not alone. It's funny because I've been monitoring single game tickets for Canada USA like you have, Bill. And I noticed yesterday at one point it was, I think, $529 for the worst seat in the house, right at the top, like last row at the roof of the Bell Center. I think it was $529. I'll check now. It was $529 for a single game ticket. And I think this morning it was up to I think $730 with taxes and fees and everything else included. So when I look at the Four Nations Faceoff circle, and let me see, Montreal. So if you want to go, there's a game at 1 o'clock today. It's Sweden and Finland. And so I'll accept the terms here. And so here, let me share this with you on the screen right now. If you're interested in ticket prices like I am for the Four Nations, here, take a look at this. So we can all watch this. We can all look at this together. I suppose it would probably be better if I put it in full screen. So there you go. So I'll put it in full screen so you can see all the prices for yourself. Okay. So $5.68 that takes us into section 434 row A. That is for one ticket. Okay. So yeah, that's wild, man. That is just, I mean, I want to go to the game. I don't have press pass access. Section 430 row B, 744. Section 426, 426. Here. This is it. Look where this is, man. Like, you need opera glasses, bro. Like, how the frig are you going to watch how can you watch a game from this vantage point? Especially like if you're in your 40s and your eyesight's like not great. I think if I were 19 years old, and if I were 19 years old, how the hell am I getting $1,500? How am I getting $1,500 to go watch a hockey game? 2.5 hours of entertainment for $1,500. Like, that's, and listen, I understand these are resale tickets, but man, these are in the freaking nosebleeds, man. These are in the freaking no. Look at this. There's 34 tickets up in 426, going for $744 a pop. 740. How long is it going to take you to get from ground floor up to section 426? Are you going to miss half a period just getting to your seat? Sakura, man. I mean, that's wild, bro. That is crazy to me. These tickets. It's crazy. And like what's the best seat in the house? Here. I forgot. I want to show you what the best seat in the house. Here. Look at this. Best seat. 119 AA. What is that, on a glass? 119 AA. 51.44 for a pair of tickets. You imagine what? Like, you could go to a pretty nice like Jamaican resort for 2 people for a week. You and somebody could go sleep, wake up every day for 6 nights and 7 days, eat until your belly explodes, drink until your liver explodes, do it all again the next day, and do it for less than 2.5 hours of fun for Canada USA at the Bell Center. What's this one? Section 124. $14,919. What are you, taking a shift with Sidney Crosby tonight for 15 dimes? There's 28 tickets left. What are you, taking a shift with Crosby? Sorry, move aside, Mark Stone. Here comes a guy who wants to sit in section 124, and he gets to take a shift with you tonight because he dropped 15 dimes for a hockey game. Don't get me wrong. I wish I was going. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's crazy. These prices are nuts. But I guess if you want to go to the game, there's a way to do it, right? If you want to go to the game, there's a way to do it. And maybe the way to do it is this. Maybe wait till the puck drops. Maybe watch the pregame. Watch the pregame so you can see the anthem and see who they roll out tonight. And by the time the first period is underway, make your way to around the Bell Center. Look for a ticket broker on the street and ask him this question. You want to go home with those tickets, or do you want to go home with money in your pocket and not go home with those tickets? Maybe that gets you in the building for a lot cheaper than the $1,500 to sit next to the Stanley Cup banner from 1926. So like Wild Bill, again, it's tough, man. It's tough. Have we ever had a Canada versus USA professional match here in Montreal? I mean, sure. I mean, that was the thing, because there have been many, including the 1996 World Cup in which Mike Richter broke my heart. And I could tell you this, if I was at the game on Wednesday to see Canada and Sweden kick off this Four Nations tournament, they bring out Teemu Selanne, and they bring out Alexander Barkov from Finland, blah, 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 blah. Daniel Alfredsson from Sweden, representing the United States of America, was Mike bleeping Richter. I promise you, friends, if I was at the game on Wednesday night, I would have booed Mike Richter, the goaltender of record when the United States in the World Cup, World Hockey Championships, came to Montreal and stoned the Team Canada. I remember I was like, at that time in 96, I was like 17 years old, and watching Mike Richter stone Team Canada. I've never forgiven him for that. Same thing with Dominic Hasek. And let me tell you something, as a passionate Hockey Canada supporter, I would have booed Mike Richter on Wednesday. Good morning, Louie. Good morning, Rick Springhetti. Good to see you. I'm actually proud of people who boo the anthem these days. Canadians may not be as bombastic about it, but we are proud people too. Being quote unquote nice doesn't mean we have to be bullied. Amen, Rick. Amen. Great comment. And that's the thing too. It's like, it really, and for the record, and I can't help but bring politics into the conversation as much as I don't want to. For the record, I'm not a Trudeau guy. But I have zero patience for that felon criminal in the United States of America to continue to refer to the Prime Minister of Canada as the governor. As the governor. Keep poking the bear. You keep poking the bear. Good morning, Peter Puck. $8,000 for behind the benches. That's the thing too. Like when I was a kid, I always wanted to sit up against the glass. You don't want to sit up against the glass. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible vantage point. When the play's in front of you, sure, it's great. And the appreciation of how fast these guys move. But when the puck is not near you and it goes to either corner, it is brutal. You can't see anything. It's you got to look up. You're sitting in these seats that are $8,000, and you got to look up at the TV to see the play. What's up, Steph? I hope the USA wins this tournament so that it shit kicks Canada to start developing goaltenders again. There's an interesting perspective. I got some time for that, no doubt. As we know now, look, we could get into this a little bit when we handicap Team Canada. The Canadian performance against Sweden was an interesting run, right? Because Canada's offensive stars were true to form. Jordan Binnington in goal was come see, come sell, a little concerning. But when he needed to show up for Canada against Sweden, he was fantastic in overtime. So, Crosby, McDavid, McKinnon have combined for 5 Hart trophies. All 3 looked fantastic on Wednesday. And no doubt that, Canada arguably has the best players in the world. Nathan McKinnon's in the conversation. Connor McDavid probably leads that conversation. And Crosby at 37 looked just as fresh, just as spry, if not better than either of those guys. So overall, Canada's loaded forward group looked very, very good and overmatched Sweden as expected, right? It is a great, great lineup that Canada will put out there. But when we look at Friday's practice, looks like Travis Konechny will be a healthy scratch, so Sam Bennett will slide in. Cale Makar is dealing with some sort of flu virus, so he wasn't there Friday. We'll see what happens. I haven't read anything yet. Let me know if you have. But the tough part, I believe, is going to be the borderline guys, whether it's Colton Parayko, Josh Morrissey. I thought they had some tough moments against Sweden, but I'm not saying they were bad. It's just that when we talk about these 4 teams and how stacked these 4 nations are, it's easy to maybe sometimes get a little bit exposed. So as I mentioned, Cale Makar's absence from Friday's practice was due to an illness, and Canada really practiced their asses off on Friday. They went about half an hour later than normal. They were going through a whole bunch of fundamental drills, focus drills, 2-on-1 drills, down low drills, chemistry drills. So Canada and even John Cooper a couple times was banging the boards with his stick. This is not just a glorified all-star game. Let's get that clear. So I would be very surprised if Cale Makar is unavailable for the game at 8:00 from the Bell Center tonight. So when we go through that, obviously it's going to be Jordan Binnington. John Cooper goes with Binnington on Wednesday against Sweden, likes the way the guy battles, and it makes no sense to not go with Jordan Binnington. So Jordan Binnington is going to be the guy. And when it comes to what we think happens today, I think Canada's offensive core, the core of Canada's offensive stars, I think is a better unit than what the Americans are going to put out there. And I know Matthew Tkachuk and Jack Eichel and Brady Tkachuk were beasts against Finland in that 6-1 win. And it was a 2-1 hockey game until it wasn't. Third period, boom, couple of goals, lickety split, and the Americans are off and running. But know this about these 2 nations when they play. There's a little bit of a trend between these 2 teams. In the last 4 games between Canada and the United States, they average 5 goals a game. So it's going to be tight. It's going to be the team that minimizes mistakes is probably going to be the team that wins this game. And neither side has won games by more than 2 goals. So again, it just reinforces the point I've been making here that historically, or in the last 4, certainly, it's been very, very tight without one team running away and hiding from the other. So there's not a lot of data. There's not a lot of trends in terms of significance that we can go back to in the last 15 years or so, because we haven't seen on the men's side best on best men's hockey as often as we would like. So I think from the overall game standpoint tonight, I think it stays along those trends. I think this is probably going to be one of those 3-2 kind of hockey games, and obviously we're hoping that Canada comes out clearly on the other side. Good morning, Louis. Mr. Macramella didn't come through. Yeah, Eric's our friend Eric, who joins us on the morning show every Thursday just after 9:00. I apologize. Still dealing with. Remember last week I was here. Remember last week I was a little bit under the weather, and I'm still kind of feeling it a little bit today. But yeah, Macramella's here to watch Sweden and Finland with his son at 1:00 this afternoon. And I believe he's probably going to stick around. And I tried to lobby him. I tried to make the case that maybe if we buy tickets in volume, it'll be cheaper on our end. Like if he grabs 2 tickets for he and his son, I said, grab 2 more. I'll pay you for them. But if maybe the purchasing power. But I don't think he really cared. Oh, Buster. I knew we would drag out. I knew some of my comments would drag out the mouth breathers, and I see Buster Tien is definitely one of those guys. Good morning, Zeph. Yeah, it's way, way, way too expensive. Way too expensive. Good morning, Wild Bill. Change to 1 ticket because those are minimum 2 ticket purchases. Yeah, but I understand, and it still doesn't change the fact that the price point is way out of whack. Wild Bill, I'm really hoping I'm going to find someone who's desperate to sell a single ticket at the last minute. I think that's your best bet, brother. That's your best bet. Savax. Here I was thinking that these type of events going back to the Roman ages was for the plebs to think of something else than their current life situations. Now the common man can't even go. It's tough, man. Like at the end of this, like when I was watching Mario Lemieux come out on Wednesday, I felt like a kid again. I felt, honest to God, I felt like a kid again. No, full stop. Mario Lemieux is my all-time favorite player that isn't a goaltender. And when Michel Lacroix said, retourne à la maison, welcome back to Montreal, Mario Lemieux, and the fans got going crazy, and the Crosby ovation. It was nice to feel like a real fan again. Like you checked everything aside. You forgot how old you were. You forgot what you did for a living. It's like, yeah. And then Crosby sets up McDavid and we're off to the races. And all of this that, man, oh man, 8:00 can't get here tonight. What's up, Rick? I really misheard. Take a shift with Sidney Crosby at first. Hey, listen, we're trying. Listen, Buster, I'm glad I could make you laugh. Hopefully you weren't one of the truck drivers that got arrested. What's up, Charles? The powers that be no longer care about the average person attending games. Better to watch the games online for free and use the money you will have to save on ticket prices for a holiday gift. Yeah, Frankie, unless you have an amazing hockey eye, quote unquote, sitting close to the ice is horrible, no doubt. And as I mentioned before, I remember it was like when I was a kid, I really wanted to go. And then I finally got a chance to sit in the platinum seats up along the glass. It was terrible. So take Frankie's advice, take my advice. Do not. Like the best. I remember when I started covering the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League when it was called that back in the day, when Montreal had a team that played out of the Verdun Auditorium, and I used to go there all the time. And it was wild because that's how I met this guy right here, Rick Springhetti. Rick Springhetti was doing scouting in the Montreal region for various Quebec League games, and obviously Montreal being his home base, that's where I got to meet Rick Springhetti a lifetime ago, and we've more or less stayed connected ever since. And a lot of the scouts would tell me, and that's where I learned this, was the best seats to watch the game are in the four corners. And so if you could get a good corner seat, maybe halfway up from the ice, that's arguably the best seat in the house, right? But if you're asking me, and I guess maybe this comes in part that I've had the chance to go to some big time games outside of the hockey world. And when I see like $600 to sit in the nosebleeds, honest to God, I get the experience of being there, but I'd rather watch from home than pay $1,500 to sit at the top. And maybe I need, some opera glasses to be able to see the play a little bit clearly. Right. Brad, Brad with the connection this morning. Canada 6, USA 4. Now that would be something. Now that Braden, excuse me, would buck some trends, as I mentioned already. In the past 4 games, going back in the last 15 years, games generally average around 5 goals, and no team has won by more than 2. But I would definitely subscribe to a 6-4 Canada USA game. I mean, are we going to survive? Are we going to be able to survive this game? With a 6-4 back and forth? My goodness gracious. Like, would you rather see Canada and USA duke it out to a 6-4 game teeter-totter? Or would you rather see how Canada dispatched the Americans? Would they win that game in the Olympics 8-2 or something like that? I think I would prefer a 6-4 kind of game. Edge of your seat. Which way is it going to go? So let's get going. Yeah, exactly. Braden, unless Cale Makar is going to play. Going to be a great game, says Andrew. Good morning, Andrew. Yeah, no more injuries. Amen, Buster. No more injuries. And that's the other thing too. That was the other thing too. I don't know. Somebody brought this. See, a lot of people bringing this up. I see a lot of people bringing this up about the ticket prices and the money and everything. I do not know where these funds go. I'm not so sure where all of this goes. So we've got lots to get to today, as I mentioned here. Here's Charles talking about, Charles lives in Scotland, travels back to attend 3 Habs game in late January. Never saw him win, wasn't cheap. So yeah, that's a struggle. It's a struggle. I understand lots of people talking about the prices of this game. So I'll get to more of your comments in a second. I also want to get to this little bit of news from Corinne Haynes in the hockey news this morning, where Ivan Demidov improves the record he set and gets advice from Alexander Ovechkin. And Montreal Canadiens prospect Ivan Demidov and his KHL team SKA St. Petersburg got back to their winning ways when they took on Bars on Thursday after dropping to Dynamo Minsk on 2 days before. So they pick up a win over Bars in a 5-2 final. Demidov picked up a primary assist on SKA's second goal and played just under 20 minutes in that 5-2 win. So Demidov has 46 points in 54 games. Demidov currently 11th in KHL points. SKA still has 13 games to go. They might be playing right now, actually, fighting for a playoff spot. Demidov's team is currently 5th in the Western Conference. They have an 18-point lead over the Kunlun Red Star team that's currently 9th place in that conference. And in an interview with RG.org recently, Alexander Ovechkin had something to say about Ivan Demidov. What did he say? Work and everything will be fine. The most important thing is to not show off, because when anyone shows off, it can come back to bite you in a big way. So interesting words of wisdom from Alexander Ovechkin, passing along some advice for Ivan Demidov to not show off. And as we know, Alexander Ovechkin chasing Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record in the NHL. And Ovechkin believes Demidov could also become a great player as long as he focuses on the task at hand. And full disclosure, I really don't think that Ivan Demidov is going to get lost in the shuffle, or that the lack of focus is going to be an issue for Ivan Demidov. He really seems to be hyper focused on getting to the next level and ultimately being the best version of a Montreal Canadian NHL player as he can. Like my understanding is Ivan Demidov pays attention to what's going on in this market. And he chooses his words very, very carefully because I wondered about if he watches this team. Yes, he does. Does he look at players that perhaps he can see as complementary to his game or help, bolster what he does? But he's been very tight-lipped. It leads me to believe that he's got a great head on his shoulders, and he's not going to be a guy that comes in here and more or less rocks the boat. So thank you for being with us on this Saturday. So yeah, I wanted to get to that. I thought that was excellent stuff from Alexander Ovechkin on some advice for Ivan Demidov. When I consider the cost of food, tickets, and the quality of the images and sound we get on TV these days, I don't even go watch a game at the Bell Center unless I'm offered good tickets. Here's Buster. What's up, Buster? Honestly, as an American, I don't even really care about this tournament. I'd rather see everybody come out healthy and ready to play for the Stanley Cup. That's an interesting perspective. Because Buster, like you, I kind of had the same feel going into the tournament that I was like, glorified all-star game. How competitive is it really going to be? I mean, we're talking about some of these players that are, like Buster mentioned there, that are doing well for their club teams, and the Stanley Cup obviously is the priority, not winning the Four Nations trophy, or I don't even know the official name of this thing. But to see Shea Theodore, get hit awkwardly into the boards on Wednesday night, and he's now out. Looks like the timeline for Shea Theodore's return to Vegas is going to be along the playoff start date. So yeah, nice coincidence, I suppose. But yeah, it's an interesting perspective that Buster brings to the table. But I think what we learned, and people are agreeing with what Buster is talking about. Yeah, and as we know, Theodore out for weeks. But again, it's good for the Vegas Golden Knights that they're so good and so deep and so well positioned for a playoff run that they can look at Shea Theodore's injury and not rush him back to action. They can actually let him take the full timeline that's required in order to heal up his wrist, his hand, so that come playoff time, he should be ready to go and reinforce that back end for Vegas. But for me, like a lot of people, like Buster brought up, like I'm saying here, I think a lot of us went into this tournament thinking, how hard of a compete level are we honestly going to experience? And then Wednesday started, and then Thursday happened. How many hits did Brady Tkachuk have in the 6-1 win over Finland? This guy was all over the place. Like this tournament, I mean, if you just watched Brady Tkachuk play on Thursday against Finland, I mean, you could tell that this game meant a lot to him personally. And then obviously he scores twice. His brother scores. Jack Eichel with assists. The line was going all over the place. And he was asked about, how he felt about scoring, how he felt about playing with his brother and winning that game, and the meaning of wearing the USA colors. And he talked about how it was the biggest game he's ever played in his life up until this point. Obviously, it was Matthew Tkachuk, his brother, winning the Stanley Cup. Brady hasn't had playoff success individually or with his team. So to me, that spoke volumes. It spoke volumes. And the other part that brought it all the way home for me was the great Alexander Barkov. The great Alexander Barkov was asked about what it was like to be there Wednesday night for the pregame ceremony, right? You got Teemu Solani, you got Daniel Alfredson, you've got Sidney Crosby, you've got Mario Lemieux. And what did Sasha Barkov say about that pregame ceremony? It was the greatest experience of his life. And as Arpon Basu, who's covering Team Finland for The Athletic, mentioned on TSN 690 when he delivered that quote, Arpon Basu reminded everybody that Barkov is months removed from having Gary Bettman personally hand him the Stanley Cup because the Florida Panthers are our defending champs. But yet it was that moment that was arguably the greatest moment of his hockey career, months removed from having won his first ever Stanley Cup. So, like, I'm not calling Sasha Barkov a liar. You can if you want to. I'm not. So the games to me have sold me. The pace of these games, the care level from the compete has sold me. And then you get the reaction comments after games have been played that for me bring it all the way home. What's up, Habs Rule? Watching Marner score that OT goal only pissed me off, did not bring me out of my seat. Why is that? Where's that comment coming from? I'm more concerned Armia getting hurt than McDavid. Could care less about McDavid. Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Charles, for this. As we were updating the Ivan Demidov story from Corinne Haynes at the Hockey News with quotes from Alexander Ovechkin giving some advice to Ivan Demidov. Demidov's team is playing today. Charles from Scotland. Demidov pointless. One shot on goal. They're tied 2-2. 14 minutes to go in the second period. Charles, you're hired. You are on the Demidov watch for as long as this stream is going. But yeah, no. I guess, buddy, did you? I guess he deleted those comments because I wanted to get to that about how. Oh no, you did not. Excuse me. Habs rule. I'm more concerned of Armia getting hurt than McDavid. I don't care about McDavid. Yeah, and the Marner goal pissed me off. Did not. I mean, again, I'm not going to tell you how to fan Habs rule or anybody else. excuse me, that feels similarly to Habs rule. Here he is, Habs fan living in Toronto. I can't cheer for Marner. Listen, as I mentioned off the top here when I addressed the booing of the Anthem storyline here, I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell you how to cheer when I went on 3 minutes of my point of view on the booing that more or less expressed how it's your democratic right to fan however you so choose to fan. So Habs rule and people that feel like Habs rule does, you cheer however you decide to cheer, and I will cheer however I decide to cheer. And that's the thing too. Like, I'm not cheering for Marner necessarily, right? Like, go Mitch Marner. I hope Mitch Marner scores tonight. No, I mean, I hope he scores for Team Canada, and I hope Mitch Marner can be instrumental in dispatching of the United States of America in terms of a competitive hockey game today. I am able, in my mind anyway, I am able to, excuse me, make a dividing line there. You know, like I love the way the Bell Center, when Austin Matthews was introduced on Wednesday night as with the Team USA, and he gets booed by the fans. Correct. Good job, Montreal fans. You did an excellent job there. High hockey IQ. You know, Brad Marchand getting cheered after he scored on Wednesday. Mitch Marner getting cheered after he scored on Wednesday. Like, it's about the national hockey team. You're not cheering for Marner as a Maple Leaf. When Marner and the Leafs come to the Bell Center, of course, you're not cheering for a Mitch Marner overtime goal. But this is our men's national hockey team. And we're lucky that we have some unbelievably talented, like, I believe the core group of offensive stars is better than the American core group of offensive stars. The Americans, I think, have better defense. I think the Americans have better goaltending. But other than that, give me McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon all day, every day over the Kachuk boys and Jack Eichel and Kyle Connor. But that's my right, Buster. Buster's having a good morning today. Buster does not appreciate NHL players who lick other players, and that is Buster's line in the sand. Buster has drawn the line. You lick players, I'm done. What's up, Jerry? Canadians booing the U.S. anthem is embarrassing. When did Canadians become such sheep? I mean, I don't know where that part comes from. Sheep in what sense sheep? How is it sheep behavior? Because, like, what about the other side? How would you, like, Jerry? I don't know if Jerry's American or whatever, but like, how would you feel if you were a citizen of another country and you thought upon your once upon a time ally kept talking about how he wanted to absorb you as a country, and was insulting your elected official, And, you're supposed to be allies, like good friends for a really long time. So I don't understand that sheep comment personally. And as I mentioned off the top, I'll say it again here because I'm 40 minutes into our Saturday morning live show, and fans that elect to boo the anthem is one of the more mild ways of having a protest. It is one of the more docile, tame, safe ways to protest and voice your opinion about why you're not happy with what's happening as a Canadian citizen. That's it. I think it's the opposite of sheep behavior personally. I would much prefer if people want to voice their democratic right to be bothered, that I would much rather people boo an anthem than burn a flag, in my opinion. Tony watching Ivan Demidov play this morning, it's a little bit of a chippy game. Nice to have people from all over the place. Habs doesn't feel it. Okay, I listen. I respect that. I like that you have that honest opinion, because I felt the way you did. I didn't feel it either. Like I said before, I was a guest on a radio show, on a news talk radio show before the tournament got going, and I more or less just crapped all over the Four Nations. All-star game, cash grab, it's not best on best, yada, yada, yada. I was not on board. And then Wednesday happened, and I feel it. I can't wait for 8 o'clock tonight. But listen, you don't feel it, you don't feel it. I get it. Yeah. What's up, Peter Puck? It's our platform to show distaste for what Americans are doing in Canada. Booing offends you. You're the sheep. So we got lots and lots and lots of comments. And this was my fear a little bit. You see, like Shaun Starr, I don't think you understand the complexity of tariffs and the relationship by what's. So listen, I'm just gonna. How do I say this? So I do fully understand. I do fully understand. And I'm going to end the political side because I see the comments are just getting flooded with. I really I did want to avoid this a little bit. I just wanted to avoid, because I don't want to talk about politics, but politics have now been forced into my discourse today. So I'm just going to end it on this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I've shared opinions from others. I've shared my opinions. Don't tell me I don't understand. I don't have, this isn't the platform for me to really break it down. And so we're just going to end it here and really get into the X's and O's about all of this. Thank you, Insubordinate Academic. Nice to see you on the live stream this morning. Yes, I agree, Buster, and everybody else. It is boring to talk about politics. So let's stop. Let's get back to having some fun this morning together. So when we get going, yeah, everything's good here. I agree, Buster. Let's talk about Canada's issues at the blue line. And that to me is important, because when we talk about the handicapping of this game today, it's going to be the one area of this game. And are you a little bit nervous here? Are you just a little bit extra nervous about goaltending with Team Canada? Because full disclosure, I'm a little nervous today. When I watched the United States and Finland do their thing on Thursday night, and I understand it was a 2-1 game, and Mike Sullivan puts the Tkachuk boys together, Matthew, Brady, and Jack Eichel. And there was it the 4-1? Where Brady Tkachuk just reads the play so well, and basically like a video game player hits the speed burst button and then just drives the lane, gets fed the pass, boom, it's in the back of the net, and the Americans are rolling. That's the one thing here when Buster and others bring up about Canada's defense. And he's here, who's Canada going to start? It's going to be Binnington. That is an issue. I don't disagree, Buster and everybody else that kind of feels similarly to that Jordan Binnington looked a little shaky to me, But then in overtime, when he needed to make a stop, there he was. He was huge, 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 huge. And so when we talk about who's going to start in goal today, in my opinion, when they decided to go with Jordan Binnington on Wednesday, there was no other way. There was no other way for anybody else to start against the Americans, right? Unless Jordan Binnington was Mr. Banana Goal and didn't look like he had his confidence and obviously wasn't a battler, and Canada lost the opener to Sweden, then of course I think we're having a different conversation, as we should, about who we think plays against the Americans at 8 o'clock on Saturday night. So 100%, 100%. But that's not the reality. I think it was strategic. I think when they looked at Aiden Hill, who's closer to a Stanley Cup victory than Jordan Binnington, and then Sam Montembeault. And even in my head, even before the game got going on Wednesday, and we were anticipating who we thought was going to be in goal for Canada against Sweden, I was thinking, oh, maybe home ice, the vibe of Montreal. Sam Montembeault knows the bounces off the boards in the Bell Center, that maybe they'd give Sam Montembeault the first game. But no. They go with Jordan Binnington. John Cooper likes the fact that he's a battler, and then they beat the Swedes on Wednesday night. And to me, there's no other option. There is no other option to go with tonight other than Jordan Binnington. I mean, hell, you're not throwing Hill or Sam Montembeault against the Americans when they haven't played a game yet. So to me, if they went with Binnington, which they did, and they won that game, then it was Jordan Binnington's. It's Jordan Binnington's tournament. And maybe if they lose to the Americans, if the USA walks into the Bell Center tonight and leaves with a 5-1 win, maybe we're talking about Hill or Sam Montembeault against Finland. But right now, no doubt, it's Jordan Binnington's net, 100%. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I think if it were my call to make, I think I would have went with Aiden Hill from the get-go. But I like the way Jordan Binnington battled, especially in overtime, 100%. And a lot of people here, what's up, Savax? Monty is a decent goalie. He gets hot and cold. I agree. But that's the thing. And I think that's ultimately what gave Jordan Binnington the edge over everybody else, was that he's a battler, and that when you ask about trust and whether or not Sam Montembeault could do it, I think they trust the fact that Jordan Binnington has won a Stanley Cup and Aiden Hill has won a Stanley Cup, and Sam Montembeault is the last guy there. Personally. Oh boy, someone's having a meltdown in the comments. That's okay. I don't think Fleury. I do not believe Jerry. I do not believe that Marc-Andre Fleury was ever an option, personally. Maybe Logan Thompson should have been, but I'm good with the three goaltenders. Because at the end of this, Team Canada's offense should be the story here. And you need Jordan Binnington. You need the best version of Jordan Binnington. Jay Fed, what's up? Good to see you back here this morning. Happy Saturday, everybody. Soccer does it right. FIFA, according to Fed, player introduction to Anthem, start the quarter to the hour, start the game on time. I agree, dude. I've been saying that. I've been saying that for 100 years. 100 years, it feels like. It drove me. Listen, I love what I do. I love that fact that I get to talk on the radio every day on TSN 690. But one of the drawbacks is I got to go to bed super early, man. I got to go to bed so early. And these games, Wednesday, excuse me, gosh, I'm still sick. The fact that Wednesday's game started so late, man, it's not great. And what about our friends in the Maritimes? What about our friends that live in Atlantic Canada? The 8:30 game for us in Quebec, Ontario, it's 9:30 in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. It's even later in Newfoundland. So, that sucks. And I agree. This guy's just having, but Glenn, relax, bro. Relax. We're just having a talk about what times games should start. People just love to argue. We love late games. Okay. So I want NHL games to start the way football starts and baseball starts. Baseball says 8:07 first pitch, 8:06 first pitch. First pitch is 8:06. When I see 8 o'clock start time, not 8:22, not 8:42. This guy's having a day. This guy's having a day today. Listen, bro, it's Canada USA. Let's go. Let's get excited. What are you so angry for, brother? Have a coffee. Smoke a joint. Do something. Relax yourself, man. Let's just take it easy here. What's up, Rick? Goaltending is an issue, but it's an issue for most teams. The lack of star goaltenders everywhere, even in junior. The States are lucky they have a Hellebuck. They lucky. Who else do they have? And if it's not Hellebuck, who is it? Jake Ottinger? Like, dude, I mean, the United States. I wish we could go back to we could go back to the old days when Canada had this surplus of goaltenders, and it was like a hotly contested debate about who Canada's starting netminder should be. Like the fact that the Americans can rotate between Ottinger and Hellebuck's like, damn, I'm jealous. I'm jealous, But we are ready for Jordan Binnington. We are ready. Thank you so much, by the way. We had lots of fun this week on the channel with yours truly and Marco D'Amico with lots of stuff as we get closer to the NHL trade deadline. You guys feeling stronger one way or another today when it comes to Canada, the Montreal Canadiens trade deadline strategy and what it's likely ultimately going to be? Because there's been some conflicting reports this week. First, you had Pierre LeBrun talking about how Jake Evans and the Montreal Canadiens are not close despite the back and forth. And then you had Renaud Lavoie from TVA, closely connected to the Montreal Canadiens, talk about how, well, don't worry, maybe there's something that can be struck between the two sides. So I find it very interesting as the Jake Evans saga continues to go back and forth, and ultimately how it's going to end up. I think in the ideal world of Jake Evans and the Montreal Canadiens, I think if the Canadiens could have it both ways, I think they would prefer to keep Jake Evans on a short-term contract. But my understanding, based on what I have heard from others, is that they're probably looking, and I just want to confirm the information I got. Yeah. So this is what I had heard, that the Jake Evans camp is hoping for a 5-year commitment. 5-year commitment. And maybe looking at around $4 million per season. And if that is the truth and that is the starting point of a negotiation, that Evans is looking for $4 million a year over the next 5, then might be an issue. I don't think the Montreal Canadiens are in the business, and I don't believe the Montreal Canadiens should be in the business of a 5-year commitment or $20 million to Jake Evans. Good player, valuable member of the Montreal Canadiens, but not in the $20 million stratosphere. Oh boy. This is a good conversation here we're having here. People are talking about rollies, bong hits, just relaxing on a Saturday. It's unfortunate because I would like to see the Canadiens keep Jake Evans. But the timing of it all as it relates to where the Canadiens are, and I think what's happened after they were great for a month just brought everything home, that Montreal has not turned the corner on their rebuild, and they still have some rebuilding to do. And as a direct result, it's just a little too much. It's just a little too much, in my opinion, right now. And the timing isn't right. And as someone had pointed out here, Tony, thanks for being here, my man. And it's always papers. Always, 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 always. 1.25, preferably. I just wanted to get this take here on, somebody was wondering about the value about it is, apparently. I don't do dabs. I'm not young and hip. I'm not young and hip. I don't even really understand what dabs are. Was that vaping? I think I'm not so sure. But I can't seem to find it. There's so many comments because you guys are just so good. You guys just flood. There's so many comments here. Come to PEI. I love Prince. I love Atlanta, Canada. I got to Atlanta, Canada a little bit later on in my life. And it was such an awesome experience. I love the people. I love the vibe. I love the pace. And yeah. I could totally see myself. I remember I used to go to New Brunswick a lot and used to spend time in the capital city there, Fredericton. I had a friend who went to UNB. And so I would spend time there. What was the other? It was at St. Thomas University, right next to the University of New Brunswick's campus. And so I used to go and spend time. First of all, Fredericton's a beautiful city, and the people are super nice and super chill. But and I remember going there and thinking to myself, "Damn, I think I could retire here. I think I could live here full time." So I got a lot of time and good golf too. Good underrated golf in Atlantic Canada. Because where was that? I'm trying to think of that place in New Brunswick. That St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Phenomenal golf in the St. Andrews, New Brunswick. Um, yeah. Let's go. Get some bong rips and hit that like button. The smart man, Peter Puck. Smart man, Peter Puck. And but no, nevertheless, like a lot of people are saying here. Let me get back to Jake Evans before I lose my. Yeah, very nice place. Fredericton's beautiful city. Capital town, of course. Good restaurant. Remember, there are a couple of good restaurants, some good shopping too. For like a small Canadian city that's a capital city, it was great. It was phenomenal. Um, Jerry saying, if I need a break, come up to Yellowknife. That was Jerry. So you could choose to believe me here or not. But when I was in high school, it was always my dream to go to the Yukon, whether it was Yellowknife or Whitehorse in the Yukon Territory or Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. I always wanted to go up there, but not necessarily in the wintertime, especially now that I've gotten older. I'm a little soft or softer, probably should say, that I'd be more inclined to go in the spring. But that's a beautiful part of this country that I honestly have wanted to go to and explore since I was 15 years old, and really not much has changed there. That would be an awesome experience. Good morning, Rick Springhetti. Short term, the Canadiens will miss Jake Evans, but in the medium term, I think Owen Beck and Oliver Kapanen will be improved versions of Evans. As usual, Rick Springhetti brings us back to earth here because you bring up a great point, okay? Like I watched Owen Beck. I've watched him for a while. Go back to some of the conversations where I talk with Sean Campbell, the voice of the Laval Rocket, and he has been very consistent for months now about how Owen Beck is a better goal scorer and will be a better goal scorer at the NHL level than Jake Evans. And it's going to take time for Owen Beck to grow into that shutdown role that Evans has succeeded in. Remember, Jake Evans has been with the Canadiens for a long time. He's going to be 29 years old in June. So he has spent a long time turning into the Jake Evans everybody loves now, right? And I think Rick is on the money. He's on the money because Oliver Kapanen is having a very good year at the SHL level, the Sweden Hockey League, where he is now. And remember, Kapanen made the Canadiens out of camp this fall. So unless we're talking about a significant regression, I think it's fair to jump to a conclusion that Oliver Kapanen will be here in the fall of 2025. And I don't believe Jake Evans will be here. And I think Owen Beck is going to slide into that spot. And as much as we like about, and I have talked about dirty minute eating Yoel Armia. But for those that are loyal and maybe Armia and Evans, you love and appreciate their hard work and the value they bring to the Canadiens, where did Montreal finish in the standings last year? Where is Montreal in the standings today? And who have they had on those teams for those seasons? So that's the other angle I can't mentally get over, is the fact that the Canadiens have been a bottom 5 team when we're talking about important veterans. So I think the time is now. I think the time is now for a transition between the Yoel Armias and the Jake Evans and the Christian Dvoraks into the Oliver Kapanen, Owen Becks, and then ultimately coming up soon, Michael Hage. Because it's year 3 of the rebuild. They haven't turned the corner. They have shown better signs of life, no doubt, for prolonged periods. But when games seem to matter, the Canadiens haven't shown enough growth yet. So it just reinforces my opinion that you're not going to fall in love with bottom 6 players. Those bottom 6 players need to be replaced, and you need to figure out who you have in Kapanen, in Owen Beck. Can Michael Hage be your second line center of the future? Is Kirby Dach better suited on the wing? You have to find out answers to some of these questions. I mean, you drafted these players for a reason. What's up, J Fed? Come across old ticket stubs from the NHLPA hockey tournament, 4-on-4 in Hamilton at Cops Coliseum back in the day, $23. Yeah, yeah, thank you, Tony. Please, yeah, it takes you nothing. It's just that, the way the YouTube algorithm works, the more, I guess, positivity, the more times this video gets liked by individuals, it gets shown to more people, I guess, on the YouTube algorithm. So that's all. That's why we keep talking about, hitting that like and everything else. And thank you, by the way, to Insubordinate Academic, Rick Springhetti, and my boy Steph Howard. So you guys have been great this morning with your super chat, super stickers, or whatever the F they're called. It basically goes into the tip jar, excuse me, for this channel. And what that means is just better graphics, better quality, and the contributors that some of you enjoy on this show, like my pal Marco D'Amico or Sean Campbell or Midge Gallo, etc. What this does, having these super stickers at $3 there, $3 there, $5 there, it allows me to put money in the pockets of my contributors. So that's basically what that does. As most people know here, I have I have a full-time job, but it just allows me again to grow this community with your help, obviously, and it allows me to make sure that people are getting paid for their good work. So thank you for that. It really does make this channel a lot better, and I think you can see with some of the enhancements that I've made on this channel from where we started in November to where we are now in mid-February, that we have done a much, much better job. And it is all because of you guys. It's all because of you guys have been so good with your loyalty and your support here. And we're only getting bigger and bigger and bigger. As some people have pointed out here, what's the other unbelievable bit of good news here is that the Montreal Canadiens are going to get some help on the back end in the form of, Peter Puck nails that. That's exactly what I'm talking about here. The form of David Reinbacher. That is the other bit of good news I want to pass along before we get ready for Canada USA at 8:00 tonight. Is David Reinbacher's return from that brutal preseason injury to the Toronto Maple Leafs is ahead of schedule. And there's a very, very, very strong possibility that David Reinbacher will be ready to go this year. And that we could, and maybe the expectation is, see David Reinbacher suit up for Pascal Vincent and the Laval Rocket before the Laval season ends, which is unbelievably great news. Because as we talk about, and we spend a good chunk here just talking about Jake Evans and his importance, and knowing that he's going to be 29, and knowing that you probably don't want to pay this guy $4 million a year over the next 4 or 5 years, that you need to figure out who you have in the Owen Becks of the world, and the Oliver Kapanens of the world, and the Michael Hages of the world, and the in Jared Davidsons of the world, and on we go, right? That the same kind of applies to what is the Montreal Canadiens defense ultimately going to look like in the next 2 or 3 years. So it's absolutely ginormous that David Reinbacher can get into meaningful hockey as soon as humanly possible, because it's been back-to-back years where the news has been worst case for David Reinbacher, whether it was playing in over in Europe last year where his season got cut short, or whether it was this year playing a preseason exhibition game and he gets hurt and can't play until February, March. So getting this top 5 draft pick on the ice, conditioned, ready to go is huge news for the Montreal Canadiens rebuild, because shoring up the right side on the Montreal Canadiens is a huge objective, because I spent the better part of this week with my guest Marco D'Amico from RG Media talking at length over the course of several videos about what is the priority in Montreal, because there have been a lot of big names rumored, whether it's Dylan Cousins as a top center, either for Suzuki or for Doc. And then there's been talk about Noah Dobson being potentially available with the New York Islanders. And I wonder about one versus the other. Which would you rather? Would you rather have a Dylan Cousins to shore up the depth down the middle, or would you rather have a guy on the right side that could put up 70 points, that can play 25 minutes a night, and is still very young? The answer for me is Noah Dobson, given the choice of what I think the Canadiens need to do in terms of building that rebuild and getting studs, because they need studs. The Canadiens need studs, plural. And one of them is a minute crunching monster on the right side as a top pair guy. I do not know if David Reinbacher projects to be a top 2 defenseman on the right side. I do not know that. But in my head, how I've sorted David Reinbacher out is, if Reinbacher could come and when he's healthy can play 24 minutes a night, I will believe that will be a winning pick by the Hughes regime. That's the bar for me. Reinbacher plays 24 minutes a night, plays strong game on the right side. If that happens, I will be good to go moving forward. But if it doesn't, you've got an issue. And figuring out Logan Mailloux, figuring out David Reinbacher, does that mean Caden Gooley's got to be on his offside again to balance things out? I don't know. So it's massive that the Montreal Canadiens figure this out, you know? So I like the right side of the defense. I think that's a priority. But in the here and now, who knows what he's barking at? Who knows what he's barking at? What are you doing? Who knows what he's barking at? Here he comes. Here he comes. Yes. Who are you barking at here? Oh, who are you? You know, Hanky, we're trying to. Can you not see we're doing a show here? Who knows what Hank's barking at? But it would the David Reinbacher getting him into meaningful games as soon as possible would be the number one thing that the Montreal Canadiens need to do. I can see it's a little bit of infighting here. Good morning, Anthony. Jake Evans on a $20 million contract is crazy work. He's been Ed. Hey now. Oh, Anthony, bringing some names from the Ed Ronan, Torrey Mitchell rolled into one. I appreciate. I think we all. I'm not saying that you don't appreciate Jake Evans, but I get your point. I get your point, and I just want to stress again that we're not falling in love with these bottom 6S type players. And I wish the timing was a little bit better. I wish the timing was better for the Canadiens and Jake Evans, because I do believe that guys like Ed Ronan, guys like Jake Evans help teams win Stanley Cups, having good, shutdown, responsible, minute-eating players. And so to take it back to a comment that was made earlier today, I don't believe. To take it back to a comment that was made earlier today, someone wondering if the return on Jake Evans could be a first-round pick. I don't believe Jake Evans gets the Montreal Canadiens a first-round pick. I really don't. And I don't believe the Montreal Canadiens get to the point where they make the playoffs this year. I don't think they make the playoffs this year. They're 3 points from bottom 5 again. And and I'll repeat myself, they are here with the veterans that everybody likes. And I don't think David Savard is brought back this year. I think if there's a player that I could see the Canadians hanging on to and risk losing for nothing, I think Christian Dvorak's going to be that guy. I could see a world in which Christian Dvorak stays past March 7th, and that come July, he hits the market and say la vie. I think it would be a colossal mistake, a massive mistake of epic proportions of total asset mismanagement if the Montreal Canadiens go beyond March 7th with Armia and Jake Evans and nothing happens with those guys. I can't see a world in which that becomes a reality. So I would utterly be shocked if Evans and Armia get nothing in return from Montreal and they move past the deadline with those guys. Now, with that being said, put me in the category of Armia and Evans as a super attractive package to another team that is needing depth with chemistry, that they come into this thing ready to go hit the ice flying Brian style, and they're rocking and rolling. To me, that gets the Montreal Canadiens. Armia Evans gets Montreal another first-round pick. And in a perfect world, I don't want it this year. I want your first-round pick in 2026. You give me a first-round pick in 2026, I'll give you Evans and Armia, and I feel like I will win that deal 24/7. Canadiens have 2 first-round picks this year, their own and Calgary's. And next year's draft, by all accounts, and maybe Rick Springhetti can shed some light on this, I believe the next draft, not 2025, 2026, is supposed to be a juggernaut draft. So that's kind of how I look at that. I want more picks. I am not part of the group of people that think less pick. No, give me more picks. Give me more picks. I believe I can use in terms of fattening a deal, of enhancing and using your picks in order to get another asset here. So I am not allergic to more picks. If we took Michkov, we wouldn't have drafted Demidov. Who's Jay Fed, what's up? Montreal passed on Michkov and Ryan Leonard. Both are going to be good for Reinbacher. Well, that's the thing too, right? Like, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know enough about the Michkov stuff. I do, but my guess is that he wanted to go to Philadelphia. That's my guess. Okay, and I can't tell if you are happy that the Canadiens passed on Matvei Michkov, because, as Peter Puck points out here, if the Canadiens did go with Michkov, they probably don't draft Demidov. And from everything I've read and the people I've spoken to, Demidov apparently eats Michkov's lunch. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. Like, the hype around Ivan Demidov makes me so nervous because I am not used to nice things with the Montreal Canadiens as it relates to players that could put the puck in the net and generate offense. I am not used to that. And it makes me nervous about all the hype. Like if you have whatever your favorite NFL team is, and they're going to play a big game. Let's say they're playing an NFC Conference Championship game. The winner goes to the Super Bowl. And your favorite team, the Chicago Bears, are playing in the NFC Championship game. And everybody and their sister is on the Bears. You turn on the radio, Bears are going to win this game. You turn on TV, Bears are going to win this game. Everybody is expecting the Bears to win. Makes me nervous when planet Earth is on one side. It makes me nervous. It's just how I'm wired. The hype train around Ivan Demidov makes me nervous because I am not used to the Canadiens having nice things offensively. Every time I watch the Montreal Canadiens, what feels like my entire life, it's why we love these hardworking players, guys that score 60 points. Wow, what a season. Oh, what a season. He scored 18 goals. Whoa, what a season. Look how hard he tried. That's the life I'm used to, the Thomas Buchanans of the world leading the Canadiens in scoring. That's the world I'm used to, and does it not make sense why people go goo goo gaga over the fact that, listen, I love Nick Suzuki. I think he's a very smart, high-end hockey player, but people lose their minds to exaggerate when he's on 52 points after 52 games. Oh, whoa, what a season. Hockey Canada. Well, no. It's that you and I have never was seen this here. You could be of a certain age where Vinny Danfus scoring goals and Brian Bellows putting up points and Mats Naslund and Stefan Riche. Bro, that's 40 years ago. That's 30 years ago. So yeah, there's maybe somebody watching right now that looks at Nick Suzuki with 52 points after 52 games like, oh my God, this is the best thing. How is he not on Hockey Canada? You're just not used to it, right? We're just not used to it. And that was what I was talking about the other day. Like watching, how lucky people in Edmonton are, man? People in Pittsburgh are. Like, think about our own lives watching the Montreal Canadiens play, right? I'm 46 years old. I have never seen anybody remotely close to the talent level that a Crosby or a McDavid have ever played for the Montreal Canadiens. Ever. Not once in my life. Not once in my lifetime. And I'm watching 97 flying all over the place. I'm watching Nathan McKinnon play on a wing. I'm watching 87 look like he's 27 out there, setting up behind the back goals. You had it, skill, speed, execution, the whole thing. And I'm like, damn, how lucky are you that you get to watch these guys here? And I'm watching Thomas Buchanan's block shots and put up 45 points, and I'm loving it. Like, if the Montreal Canadiens had a Connor McDavid, I think the St. Joseph's Oratory would be named the Connor McDavid Oratory. Like, I don't know what would happen to this guy's stock if he played in Montreal. Like, we rename streets. We build statues in bronze for players that have done something of significance here. Imagine the Montreal Canadiens had a Connor frickin' McDavid. So, yeah, you're lucky. So enjoy every moment of it. That you get to watch Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin. That you get to watch Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. That you get to watch Cale Makar and Nathan McKinnon. And I think ultimately to take it to the Canadiens, this is all we're talking about on the regular here. I think most passionate Hab fans of a certain age that have struggled to watch success, and you watch other clubs rebuild, blah, 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 blah. That's all anybody, I think, really, really truthfully wants. They want a Canadiens team that one day can be spoken about the way we talk about the Colorado Avalanche, the way we talk about the Tampa Bay frickin' Lightning, the way, I can't believe I'm even going to say this, the Vegas Golden Knights. Ever since they were born into existence in the NHL, all this team knows is conference final, and a Stanley frickin' Cup. That's what I think, by and large, Canadiens Nation here watching us, talking together on this Saturday morning. This is what we want. We want to have players on this team that make others jealous at the end of the day. What's up, Rick? We talk about the 2026 draft. According to Rick Spaghetti, the 2026 draft is looking good in the top first round. After that, it's still early to say, but that's the early indications about the 2026 draft, and that's why I'm talking about more picks. And if this organization in Montreal can package an Armia and an Evans together, I will happily take a first round pick. I would much prefer that first round pick be in 2026. But if you want to give me 2025, if we can negotiate, I would settle on that. Yes, I'm aware. I am aware of Lane Hudson. I love that fact too. I love that. Like, we talk about players, right? That get drafted. Like, use Brendan Gallagher as an example. Like, Brett Gallagher was a 5th round pick, right? And it was one of my favorite lines in hockey. It's like, wow, what a smart team. They found Brendan Gallagher. His own team passed on him 4 times before they picked him. It just makes me laugh. Charles is on my page this morning. Habs need futures to keep the pipeline strong, so getting first-round picks for 2026 and beyond makes sense. Yeah, I agree. It makes me nervous when I notice that Shaun Starr doesn't look like Ringo Starr. Peace and love. Peace and love. Boy, I'm not going to lie. Like, I love my parents. My dad's great. Mom's great. Love my parents. But to be the heir to Ringo Starr, that would be all right. Damn, I'd take Bart Starr at this point. You know? What's up, Rick? I had Michkov, Dvorsky, Reinbacher as my top 3 for the Habs. The more I watch Michkov, the happier I am that they chose Reinbacher. I agree, Rick. I agree. Full stop. Full stop. The more I see it, I see it your way too. I think Ivan Demidov is going to be the real thing, and I am very, very excited. I have not been this excited forever. You see, I mean, you have fans of an older generation, right? Fans of an older generation. You know, growing up with superstars. Guy Lafleur scoring all the time. Jacques Lemaire, great 200-foot player. Guy Lafleur, superstar. You know? And, you know, I grew up listening to the old generation tell me and make jokes all the time. I watch Stanley Cups all the time. Blah, 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 blah. And my favorite joke my grandfather used to tell me. He goes, you know how I knew it was springtime? I'd be like, no, how? Not by the calendar. I'm like, okay. I would pick up the Montreal Gazette and it would say Stanley Cup parade on this day down St. Catherine. And that was the first day of spring. Or every spring, you were going to a Stanley Cup parade. How many of you have ever gone to a Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup parade? You want to know how many I've been to? 0. 0. Not 1, not 2, 0. This guy saw the Rocket play. Listen, if you saw the Rocket play and you're watching me on YouTube, congratulations. That was one of the more challenging things I ever undertook in my life, was teaching and let me tell you something. My grandfather's still with us. He's he's going to be 96 in May. Still with us. And a brilliant, brilliant man. Spoke multiple languages, played multiple instruments my entire life, an engineer by trade, worked in Bécancour at the Hibernia projects, worked for Montreal Engineering for 1,000 years, right? A brilliant man. And the things he would tell me about watching the Rocket, you know, and it was one of the more challenging things of my life to teach my grandfather, a brilliant man, how to use the internet, how to use a laptop. And again, he's an engineer, so logically, his brain works logically, you know? So I would logically approach him about this button does that, this button does that, this button. I used to write things down in a notebook for him. And for whatever reason, it didn't work. So if you're here, 4Fs, and you watch Maurice Richard play hockey, and now you're on YouTube.com watching a live stream, congratulations. Congratulations for being so internet savvy for a guy who watched Maurice frickin' Richard play. That's amazing. Yes. Oh, man. Peter Puck. Dude, I love this. I was in studio working with Mitch Melnick back when the radio station was located on Green Avenue in Westmount. And we were watching the draft lottery, and Montreal wasn't named, and Montreal wasn't named, and Montreal wasn't named. And then finally at number 5, Montreal was named. And of course they go with Carey Price. But dude, to be able to think about watching 87 in Montreal for his entire career, that's how it should have gone. And that's why I believed at the time that Sidney Crosby, whose father was drafted by the Montreal Canadiens, whose favorite team when he was a boy was a Montreal Canadien. I thought to myself, generational players, generational talent, if they want to play for a team, they will find a way to play for a team. And I always believed that somewhere in the back of my mind. At one point, I always believed somewhere in the timeline of Sidney Crosby in the NHL, he was going to play for the Montreal Canadiens. I no longer believe that. Yeah, here's another great example. Henrik Zetterberg, 7th round. Pavel Datsyuk, 5th round. Martin St. Louis was never even drafted. You know, especially in those days in MSL, like, he was so small. He was so tiny. And it was a Vermont Catamount, right? The greatest undrafted player in the history of hockey. And that's the thing, too. That just reaffirms the point I was making. I couldn't think of his name, but I knew it was Henrik Zetterberg in the back of my mind somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was 7th round or whatever, but yeah, the Red Wings passed on Zetterberg 6 times before they got him in the 7th round, right? It's like, oh, what a smart, well-run organization. Lots of comments today. Thank you so much. Insubordinate and academic. He's been to 6 parades. Old enough to rest 6 parades. That is awesome. Zeph, I still use a rotary phone at home. No, really, do you? I'm old enough that I remember using a rotary phone, no doubt. I was at the last concert in the Forum. It was AC/DC. That must have been a great show. That must have been a great, great show. 87 should have pulled an 88 from your lips to someone's ears. And Adam Oates not drafted as well. Another great one. Another great one for sure. So yeah, what do you think's happening tonight? What's your bold prediction? Give me your bold take on what's going to happen today. I'm just going to remind you when we handicap Canada USA at 8:00. Give me your picks right now. Let's get them in. Who's going to win this game tonight? Canada USA. Give me a winner. Give me a winning pick. Let's go. When we look back at how closely fought the matchups between these two teams are, I would be surprised if either team won this game tonight by more than 2 goals, barring an empty netter. Both teams have so much offense. They also have the game's best two-way players, and they have the best shutdown defenders in hockey. The last 4 games between Canada and the USA the last 4 have averaged 5 goals per game. Neither side has won by more than 2. So while that may not hold a ton of, I guess, handicapping significance, considering we're working with games dating back to 2010, it seems very realistic that we're going to see a similar approach to this game where neither side makes mistakes, neither side gets caught with bad play in their own end. So in terms of looking at the game from a handicapping viewpoint, I think this game will stay under the 6.5 goals. And maybe, just maybe, I think if you're looking for a little bit of adventure, maybe this game gets to overtime. So, insubordinates going, Canada wins 6-4. 4Fs, what's up? Canada wins in a 4-3 final. JFed, I have a feeling USA wins 4-3. Goaltending will be an issue, says JFed. As much as I want Canada to win, I expect the United States to win this hockey game. And again, I don't blame anybody. I don't blame you for thinking that the weakest spot on this team is the position in goal. Peter Puck, Canada, USA. USA 6, Canada 4, pays 80-1. And I guess when it comes to money, right, there is no loyalty. Buster, I think this is the first time where Canada's defense is definitely a step behind the USA's, let alone if they are without Makar. I will be shocked if Cale Makar does not play today. Like everything I read, everything I saw yesterday was about how he's just more or less under the weather. Let me see if there's anything this morning. I'm going to just do a live. I'm just going to check in fast. See, just to make sure I haven't missed anything while I do this live. No, nothing that I have seen yet. So, nothing that I have seen that indicates Cale Makar is either playing or not playing yet. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I don't know, Buster, if he has the flu or if he's got the sniffles or the cold or whatever else. But I would imagine it's going to take a lot for him not to play this hockey game, flu or not. There are ways these athletes can recover pretty quickly. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of goals tonight. I don't. I think we're going to see kind of a 3-2 hockey game. And I got to cheer. I'm cheering for Canada. Let's go, baby. It's Canada. So thank you so much for watching us today. It's now 11 o'clock on this Saturday morning. I'll be back tomorrow at 9:30 as we recap Canada and USA. So it should be a great one. Enjoy it. And make sure you're back with me tomorrow morning at 9:30 as I look forward to recapping the results. Go Canada, go. Canada, USA at 8 o'clock tonight. Let's recap it together tomorrow right here where you're watching right now at 9:30 Sunday morning.